They always said Ìyá Àkàndé was just an old woman, alone, quiet, harmless, but no one knew that every time a pregnant woman fell weak, every time a child got sick without reason, it wasn't malaria, it wasn't typhoid, it was her. She wasn't walking in the dark, she was flying, and on one cursed morning at 4:03 a.m., when the moon turned pale and the wind refused to blow, she fell onto a roof, and what she confessed that day still haunts the village till this very moment. In the heart of Kòlá Àlàgbádò, there was a narrow street called Òkúta. Small bungalows lined both sides, painted in sun-bleached colors. Children played outside, women swept their front yards, and generators hummed every evening. At the end of that street was a crumbling hut with rusted zinc roofing. That was the house of Ìyá Àkàndé. She was 80. No one really knew her age, but that's what people said. Bent over, always in faded wrappers, skin like dried pepper. She hardly spoke, never smiled, never traveled, and nobody ever visited her. She was just there, until things started going wrong. It started with Rémi's baby. The child had been kicking fine in the womb. But one morning, Rémi woke up screaming, "My baby is not moving." Doctors couldn't explain it. The child came out still. Then it was Dare, a 6-year-old boy who was running around one day and collapsed the next. His eyes rolled back in his head and he couldn't walk for a week. More and more cases followed. All of them shared one thing in common. The night before, someone had seen a black bird flying low over the roof, and almost every time, that black bird circled near Ìyá Àkàndé's house. People began to whisper. Baba Femi, the landlord, said he heard something scratching on his window one night around 4 a.m. When he peeked through the curtain, he saw a large black bird, eyes glowing red, perched silently. It didn't flap, it didn't caw, it just stared. He screamed. It flew off. But the next morning, Emoji Sola, his pregnant daughter, was too weak to get out of bed. Stories began to spread. Some said it was just superstition. Others said the devil had moved into Òkúta. But one man, Adagu Kh the herbalist, warned, "That is no ordinary bird. That is a soul in feathers. Someone old is eating the young." It was a Friday night. The moon was pale. The air felt too still. Tammy, a sharp-eyed 9-year-old girl, couldn't sleep. Around 4:03 a.m., she heard something on the roof. A scraping, a screech, then a loud thud on corrugated iron. She rushed to her mother's room. "Mummy, something landed on Ìyá Àkàndé's roof." Her mother, Emoji Sola, was pregnant and weak, but followed her outside. Neighbors came out too. Baba Femi, Ìyá Toin, the meat seller, Ayandele, the church elder. They looked up, and there she was, a naked old woman, curled up like a baby, lying on the roof of her own house, blood around her mouth, feathers beside her, her body shivering. One child shouted, "Mummy, that's Ìyá Àkàndé." People gasped. Some crossed themselves. Others shouted in fear. She had fallen mid-flight. They brought her down with a ladder. She didn't fight. She didn't speak. She just shivered. They wrapped her in a wrapper and laid her on a mat in Ìyá Toin's shop. Then she started talking. Softly at first. Her voice croaked. Her lips cracked. But her words were clear. "I was born in Ofah in 1943. I was beautiful, but poor. I lost my husband at 29. I had nothing, no children, no future. They came to me, the women in white wrappers. They said if I gave blood, I would gain life. At first I said no. Then I said maybe. Then I said yes. The first time, I drank goat blood, then chicken, then babies." People screamed. Not to kill, just enough to weaken them. Just a taste. Every time I flew, I wore the moon like a crown. The wind was my road. But this night the moon turned away from me. My wings failed. She turned to emoji Sola. I came for your baby, but I fell. I have flown for 51 years. I am tired. Then she looked up at the sky. It was almost 5 a.m. The sky, once quiet, began to rumble. A wind rolled through Kòlá Àlàgbádò like a curse unchained. Raimi, now holding her 2-month-old baby, whispered, "God, please forgive us for listening to her." Suddenly, the sky cracked. A flash of light. Boom! A bolt of thunder shot from the clouds, piercing straight through the zinc roof where Ìyá Àkàndé had fallen. Everyone screamed and dropped to the floor. When they looked up, another bolt hit the ground just outside the shop. Then a third bolt, brighter than fire, struck the old woman on the mat, straight in the chest. She didn't scream. She didn't move. She was gone. They buried her the next day, far into the bush behind E4 Road. No prayers, no songs, just dry earth and cold silence. Her house was sealed. And from that day, no child fell mysteriously sick. No pregnant woman felt drained. No bird flew at 4 a.m. But every now and then, someone on Òkúta Street still wakes up at 4 a.m., swearing they heard wings. If this story gave you chills, it was meant to, because here at Talepedia, every story holds a secret, and some should never be told. Subscribe, and join us again, in the shadows,